So who is this colorfully dressed man that I've been showing you? He is no other than WNBA head coach and general manager Curt Miller of the Connecticut Sun. Now here's some background on Coach Miller. Curt Miller was born and raised in the small town of Girard, Pennsylvania. Miller attended Girard High School where he was a member of the basketball and track and field team. A 1986 graduate, Miller held 6 school records on the track team and was the starting point guard his senior year on a basketball team that lost in the Western semifinals of the Pennsylvania State playoffs. That playoff run by Miller and his team equaled the farthest playoff run a Girard High School team had made at that point. Miller then went on to attend Baldwin-Wallace and graduated in 1990. Miller began his collegiate coaching career as a volunteer graduate assistant at Kent State University for their women's basketball team. He then moved on to an assistant at Cleveland State and Syracuse University for their women's basketball teams before becoming the women's basketball associate head coach at Colorado State University. At Colorado State, Miller compiled an overall record of 81-20 in his 3 seasons there. This led to his hiring as Bowling Green's women's head coach. At Bowling Green, Miller coached 11 seasons and won at least a share of the Mid-American Conference, or MAC, in his last 8 years, including 7 outright titles, resulting in 5 NCAA tournament bids. In 2006 and 07, he won a MAC record 31 games and became the first MAC women's basketball team to ever reach the Sweet 16. Miller finished with a 258-93 record at Bowling Green. It was the 13th all-time among active coaches in winning percentage at .737% at the women's Division I level. In 2012, Miller was hired by Indiana University to lead the women's basketball program for the next 6 years. In his first year, he led the program to its most wins in 3 years. After the 2013-14 season, Miller had to resign due to family and health issues. In 2015, Miller became the assistant coach of the WNBA team, the Los Angeles Sparks. He lasted 1 year in Los Angeles before the Connecticut Sun decided to make him their main man in 2016. After missing the playoffs in his first season as the Suns head coach, he has not missed it since. This includes a trip to the WNBA Finals in 2019, where his Sun came up short 3-2 against the Washington Mystics. In this year's WNBA bubble, his team lost to the runner-up Las Vegas Aces in the semifinals 3-2. He also in 2017 won the WNBA Coach of the Year. Now, I sat down and asked Coach Miller some questions, and here is what he had to say. How did you get your current job?
My current job as head coach and general manager of the Connecticut Sun, I spent 1 year in the WNBA with the Los Angeles Sparks. Connecticut opened up, was looking for a new head coach. Ultimately, they zeroed in on my experience from the collegiate level and interviewed and got the job after spending the previous season as an assistant in LA.
What do you value most about your job?
The opportunity to mold and empower young women between 23, 22, and 32 is most of what our league means. And so I really value the opportunity to help them grow as people off the floor through the sport that they love. Obviously really competitive and try to win games, but even more important to my job is trying to help them just develop and empower them. So life after basketball, when it stops, is a big part of my philosophy.
Even though I only played in high school and still couldn't figure out what I needed to do in college since I didn't have sports anymore, it took me a while to figure something out.
Yeah.
Because all I tried to do every day was, one of my buddies played for Penn State Barons team, and I would ask him every day if they need anybody to come play with them because, one, I still wanted to get better, and two, that's all I wanted to do.
Right.
What are the most valuable skills you use to do your job?
Without question, communication. The wide-ranging people that I interact with on a daily basis, from your players to your coaching staff, which is older, to the front office personnel, to the agents of all these players, the high maintenance agents, and then to the fan base, which is typically older. So communication without question, being able to have productive conversations with different wide-ranging groups of people is really important.
What is the biggest downside of your job?
The hardest part of my job, downside of my job, is that you're typically the bad guy. You can only play 5 players in basketball at the same time, so there's always people that crave more playing time. There's always people that desire more. So the downside of the job is that as the boss, you make a lot of decisions and you can't keep everybody happy. And so it's at times a difficult life lesson to realize that you're not going to keep everybody happy. Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone's going to truly want to be your friend. And that's not always easy in a leadership position, knowing that people, you can't keep everybody happy.
Share an example of how networking worked for you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I spent 24 years at the collegiate level. Late in my career, when I was the head coach at Indiana in the Big Ten, I coached and recruited a player by the name of Taylor Agler. Taylor Agler's dad was Brian Agler, who is a longtime professional coach, one of the most successful women's basketball professional coaches in the history of our sport. He got to see me coach his daughter, recruit his daughter up close and personal. So that relationship really flourished. When I left Indiana and transitioned from college to the pros, he was the head coach who hired me in LA. It's a small world. Basketball is a very small world. Everybody's connected, but that networking, obviously coaching a daughter of a current professional coach, ended up opening doors for me at the professional level because he got to see me up close and personal coaching his own daughter.
What is your advice for breaking into the industry?
It's the hardest part. There's a lot of doors closed, and so my advice is to keep knocking on those doors. It's not always what you know, it's who you know early on. And then my advice is, if you get the opportunity and the door cracks open for you, to take advantage of it and create your own path then. And then that's when your work ethic, your ability to grind, your loyalty, all the attributes that everyone talks about, what's so important, then comes into play. But it's not always what you know. And a lot of times it's who you know. So networking, and then just not getting discouraged. The hardest thing in coaching and in basketball in particular, where I can talk the hardest thing is getting your foot in the door. It's easier then to stay in the game because of your talent, your work, how hard you're going to work and that way, but it's really, really hard to get in. So don't get discouraged when doors close and you don't get that shot. Keep networking until you get an opportunity.
What makes you unique from others who have a similar job?
One, I believe that I've had success because of my preparation. Everybody works hard, but I've really grinded. I sacrificed a lot of things in my personal life with family and friends at times. I think that my ability to grind, and it's a lifestyle, not a profession. It's truly a lifestyle in my mind. It has really separated me from some, is my ability to prepare and the ability to outwork people.
What is your compensation?
Currently, renegotiating as we speak. Had a really good productive phone call today. I know what I hope it is next year, but currently $325,000 per year.
What advice would you give to new coaches entering the industry?
My advice is that, there's no such thing as luck. Luck is achieved when preparation meets opportunity. And so be prepared for that opportunity, and take advantage of it. The other advice for me is, some people will mention loyalty. Some people will mention different attributes first. For me, I'm always attracted to people that grind. I want to be surrounded by people that are going to work hard. I want to surround people that are going to be proactive and not reactive, and look for things to do even when it might not be in their lane. not being afraid to just be a sponge and absorb everything. But I'm really attracted to people that are willing to work. And so my advice to young people all the time is that it's a lifestyle. Coaching's a lifestyle. It's not for everyone. And you have to have sacrifices, and there's sacrifices to family and friends. And if you're not willing to do that, you may not be in this profession, may not be cut out for you.
What is something you would have done differently?
That's a good question. What would I have done differently? I would have, ironically, it kind of counters some of the things that I just have been sharing with you, but what I would have tried to find a little bit of balance. I would have tried to find more time for family and friends, not skip that vacation with a family, not skip that holiday with a family, one night at the movies, or shutting your computer down and not scouting an extra game, or not going to a regional high school game to scout talent and make one more movie night with family or friends. Just try to find a little bit more balance without um, not changing who I am in terms of a grinder and how hard I work, but trying to find a little bit more balance.
Who gave you your first opportunity?
I was given an opportunity at Kent State University. They did not have a funded graduate assistant position when I was coming out of college. Fortunately, landed an opportunity of teaching racquetball and basketball classes while I was in grad school. But the women's basketball coach at the time, Bob Lindsay, the head women's basketball coach at Kent, didn't have a GA. So I asked if I could volunteer, and literally spent every moment when I wasn't taking my own classes or teaching my classes, I was in their offices. And he gave me that shot. I proved it over the first few months with him. And so he started treating me like a GA, even though I didn't necessarily have that title. And am forever indebted. One of the best coaches at the mid-major level in our game gave me my shot, and I learned a lot from him in my year with him.
Miller is eager to start the 2020-21 WNBA season. Him and his team have championship expectations after a strong playoff run in this year's bubble.